I've been following tigers inside national parks and tiger reserves for many years. But today, I realize the real story is outside. A third of Indian tigers live in these fringe forests close to human habitation and come into news when they kill or get killed. We decided to get off our fancy jeeps and safe proximities to take a peep into the secret life of these tigers. This film is going to explore why it is critical to save these tigers and their habitats from their vulnerable life, because they are unprotected and because they are forgotten. In the early 2000s, there was a tiger crisis. The crash may have been arrested now, and the numbers are coming back. But a new crisis is slowly taking shape.
I think, Krishnendu, that's the crux of conservation now. I think we have consolidated our tiger reserves. The tiger reserves are doing well with the systems in place, the legislation in place. What is required for long-term tiger survival is these connectivities in the sink habitats. And they are fast vanishing because there is no law which protects them.
Okay, let's start at the beginning. When the tiger numbers increase, reaching carrying capacities, they then disperse to new areas.
All these animals which are surplus animals, more than what the area can sustain, they have to go and find new homes outside of that area. And so you have tigers coming out of these tiger reserves which act as sources. But for this you require buffer areas around tiger reserves so that individuals, surplus individuals from one tiger reserve can actually go on to the other area.
Dr. Jhala talks about source, surplus and buffer. This is amply illustrated by Corbett Tiger Reserve, which has the highest density of tigers in the world. The tigers from Corbett disperse to Ramnagar to the south and some to the Lansdowne forest in the north. Miraj Anwar is a scientist working with the tigers in the Ramnagar forest. He puts up camera traps along the landscape. So whenever you open this, you are expectant, huh?
Yes.
That you'll get something interesting. Great. So on this bend, a tiger must have gone.
This is a female.
Miraj showed some amazing shots of the local tigers, especially one with a tiny cub in her mouth. Typically, the 35 tigers in here live in a sea of humanity. I saw an interesting sequence of villagers and tigers using the same landscape. I drove to Lansdowne to try and see some of the spillover tigers from Corbett. There are an estimated 25 tigers here, and the signs were all over.
ये बहुत बड़ा है.
Lansdowne is also an elephant country, and it was great to see their presence together.
और ये टाइगर और हाथी का एक साथ.
As we see, the forest adjoining Corbett could hold close to 80 tigers. But as Dr. Chhala said, laws don't protect these forests. The legal status of these forests is reserve forest, which have little protection and resources, unlike the tiger reserves. Bordering Lansdowne is Rajaji National Park. Its eastern shore, Chilla.
Let's go and check this camera trap.
Bibhash Pandav, a scientist from Wildlife Institute of India, has been studying this corridor for many years. He has camera trapped tigers right on the river Ravasan on the border of Rajaji and Lansdowne.
So right here, I mean, like these
This forest that you see,
yeah,
this is the
right,
forest where tigers, there are around 10 to 12 tigers living inside this forest.
This forest,
Okay,
huh?
this
Okay.
part of Rajaji National Park.
right.
And there are also, I mean, it will be wrong to say it as a corridor forest. It's a tiger habitat.
Yeah, we've seen
There are-
so many pug marks and
Exactly.
resident tigers also.
Exactly.
as
There
we
are
were told.
resident tigers
Yeah,
in
we
this
were told
area.
here.
The tiger that was photographed in 2011 in Lansdowne Forest Division, now he is moving inside Chilla Range.
Wow.
The tigers of Lansdowne and eastern Rajaji are the last of the tigers in this trail. The development of cities like Haridwar and Rishikesh along the Ganga break the corridor and prevents the tigers to cross over. The tiger population of western Rajaji crashed from 10 in 2001 to 1 by the latest count.
So the traffic is going to be a one-way traffic. Not even a single tiger has managed to move to the western part of the park. Tigers are slowly disappearing, not on their own, because of the lack of connectivity which has happened due to developmental activities around the
Yeah.
park.
Bore River, Kaladungi, Corbett Land. I've been coming here for the last 2 decades, and every time I come here, I'm so thrilled to realize that Edward James Corbett walked the same land about 80 years ago. At that time, this place was teeming with tigers. Paulgarh, Sitabani, Dechuri Block, Dhumka, everywhere there were tigers and lots of conflict. And here, we see things haven't changed much. There are tigers here and the conflict still exists.
In these multiple use reserve forests with high human presence, conflict is bound to occur. I'm back in the Ramnagar Reserve Forest to check out the human-tiger conflict. Tigers are known not to leave their kills abandoned and go out too far. To dive into the undergrowth with a tiger lurking close is sure adrenaline thumping.
बड़ा नहीं ना बड़ा टाइगर था हाँ बड़ा टाइगर मेरा भागे हैं तो सुबह मिला कैसे यहाँ पर
ये तो निशान देख के मारा तो इधर नीचे कोशी में है।
अच्छा अच्छा वो खींच के लाया ऊपर
खींच के लाया दो नीचे है
तीनों को एक साथ पकड़ा
एक ही
टाइगर ने
एक और दो
The barking deer's alarm call was relentless, telling us that the tiger was agitated because his meal was intruded upon.
Come out of this. Yeah, really? You think it's close?
Yes.
Tiger is moving and I think it's coming to the kill. We should move out fast.
Annually, more than 1,000 cattle heads are killed by tigers in the Ramnagar area, which is about 3 per day. The only way to quell the anger and the loss of people is to expedite the compensation. The incredible tolerance of the people here also helps this process.
ऐसा है, हमारा तो दिन रात का संबंध है बाघ शेरों के साथ, क्योंकि हम तो जंगली उस पे है हमारा गांव। तो अब दिन रात का संबंध है तो फिर कभी कभी नुकसान बाघ भी कर देता है, कभी हम भी घास लकड़ी जंगल से ही लाते हैं, हम भी नुकसान ही तो कर रहे हैं। तो ये लगा के हम अपना मेल मिला लेते हैं।
I asked Neha Verma, the Lansdowne forest officer, about the support these critical tiger populations get from the tiger authorities.
We have lots of problems. We have Gujars here, and that is the number one problem. We don't have enough patrolling funds. We don't have enough protection measures. So if the status of this area is elevated to a wildlife division, definitely there will be a much boost too.
So what's stopping it from that? Why is the state hasn't done it for so long?
This state doesn't have much of the political way.
The DFO Ramnagar resonated what Neha had said, but in a more pained way, something I would hear repeatedly in my journeys.
टाइगर्स कितने पास के इतने सुरक्षित तो नहीं कह सकती हूँ, क्योंकि यहाँ पे जो ह्यूमन रिसोर्सेज कम है, डिपार्टमेंट के पास इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बहुत कम है। ह्यूमन रिसोर्सेज में कह लीजिए एक एक गार्ड जो है वो 2-2 बीट 3-3 बीट्स कई बीट को देख रहा है। बीट वॉचर्स नहीं हैं प्रॉपरली, बीट वॉचर्स हैं भी तो उनके पास प्रॉपर फील्ड गियर नहीं है, वो चप्पल पहन के जाते हैं। कि कॉर्बेट का टाइगर तो APL है और हमारा टाइगर BPL है, क्यों उनको इतनी सुविधाएं, हमारे टाइगर्स को क्यों सुविधाएं नहीं है? मैं चाहती हूँ कि कॉर्बेट की सीमा पर ही उनको बैजेस दे दिए जाए ताकि उनसे APL का बैज हटा लिया जाए, BPL का बैज लगा दिया जाए। बेचारे पुअर टाइगर्स ना।
With teeming tigers, rife with rampant state apathy, the story of Corbett's surrounding tiger habitats provide a compelling start to my journey. I chance upon an unbelievable tiger-human cohabitation story. My next stop.
This is the reserve forest of Pilibhit, and by the last count there were about 40 tigers in here. And these are the sugarcane fields of the people of Pilibhit. This is the line which divides the forest and the fields, and the tiger sometimes doesn't recognize this line and just hops across into these fields. And this is the story of how the tiger seeks security in the fields of the sugarcane.
A couple of 100 miles north of Lansdowne Ramnagar landscape is the sleepy, dusty town of Pilibhit, where sugarcane is the staple crop in the winters. I had heard of this incredible tiger family who stayed in the sugarcane fields for 6 months. A mother had brought her 3 small cubs to rear in a sugarcane field, traveling some 15 kilometers from her home in the forest. I went looking for this sugarcane family and was told that the tigress mother had gone back into the forest. But one of her matured male cubs was back this year and had taken shelter in Kuldeep's cane fields.
ये तो शेर के है ना?
हाँ जी सर। पूरे उसने खुर्चा हुआ है ये तो।
पूरे ऊपर तक गया है ये।
पूरा ऊपर तक है सर, पूरा यहाँ तक है, ये लास्ट है उसका। पूरा खुर्चा हुआ है ये।
पूरा।
हाँ जी।
वो पता ये नाखून जो है ना वो करते हैं वो।
तेज करता है
अपना। ऐसे हम देखते हैं जंगलों में, जंगल के अंदर होता है। खेत में तो पहली बार देख रहा हूँ।
ये है इधर से।
ये
वाले ये सभी इसी गन्ने के आसपास में रहते हैं।
यार ये तो बहुत सही है।
ये वाले ये इसी गन्ने के आसपास में रहते हैं।
वहाँ से आए होंगे वो,
वहाँ से उधर से स्क्रैच
करके आए, फिर यहाँ
इधर से घूमता हुआ।
ये हो गया एक, और ये जा रहे हैं यहाँ से, और ये वाला देखो क्या बढ़िया है यार। खेल कूद रहे थे यहाँ पर।
हाँ जी, ये जैसे
ये
नीलगाय
वाले।
के पैर हैं, इन्हीं को वो खाता है
हाँ।
मार के।
तो नीलगाय और वो
हाँ,
शेर एक
शेर,
साथ।
हाँ जी, एक ही साथ।
क्या
में।
बात है।
वो आगे पीछे कहीं इसके
हाँ।
जाता होगा शिकार के लिए, तो वो इन्हीं को
प्रेडेटर
हाँ जी,
एक साथ
इलाके में फैल
इलाके
गए
में
सर कि
फैल
वहाँ
गए।
पे है रहता है। तो एक तो हमारे मतलब कोई चीज़ छूता नहीं है यहाँ पे कोई भी, जैसे हमारे ट्यूबवेल वगैरह है खुले हुए हैं सब कुछ। दूसरा ये जो जंगली जानवर है जैसे सुअर है, ये हमारा नुकसान करता था, वो हट गया है। नीलगाय है वो हट गई है,
वो भी डर गए होंगे।
वो भी डर के मारे
चले
यहाँ
गए
से
होंगे,
एरिया
हाँ।
छोड़ गए हैं। पूरा बड़ा है, इसी में से जैसे ये है
ये तो यहाँ से निकला होगा, ये तो ये जगह भी बना रखा है ये तो। चले अंदर।
रहने दो, छोटे छोटे
तो ठहरे तो।
We waited out for the night to fall and see if we could put our night vision camera to capture the tiger. The jackals were out. Maybe the tiger would too. This is a night vision camera. I'm going to try out something and see what the tiger sees. I'm going to get in there and try and see the point of view of a tiger. I've seen a lot of crop depredation by wild animals. I've seen cattle killings, even human killings, and still we have so many tigers, so much wildlife, so much forest. We always, of course, complain and crib that we should have more forest and more protection, etc. But in a country like this, I think there is don't you think there's a lot of tolerance and a lot of cohabitation
definitely,
at least?
No, that's a very good point because without romanticizing it too much, if you look at the situation in India with in comparison to some of these places in Southeast Asia, you find that the tolerance level of the people just to allow an animal to be there, an animal such as a predator, large carnivore, to exist in the landscape and to say it's okay, and to have that tolerance is one reason why we have half the world's tigers in India today.
Joseph works with the Tigers Alive initiative, but in his earlier stint he was with WWF, where he had designed and managed tiger projects outside the protected areas.
And the identification of certain sites. So, yeah.
When big cats roam freely through outskirts of cities and maraud people, this tolerance today is put under severe pressure. Recently, one tiger traveled 250 kilometers through the northern Indian towns and forests and killed 9 people. It was still at large when I was finishing this film. Tigers outside the protected forests are shy of humans. It is almost impossible to view these tigers in daylight as we see them in tiger reserves. Camera traps are perhaps the only way to spot and study them. This video was taken by one of our night vision cameras. We knew that a tigress had killed the cow, but look at what we discovered. She also had a young cub. Look at how the cub finds it difficult to tear the tough hide and looks anxiously for a mother. And then the mother takes her chunks with practiced ease. For many of us, these are never seen images of the secret lives of tigers. If you keep watching this video, you will hear a sudden commotion, and then the camera is pushed around. Yes, it is the inquisitive cub behind the camera on a rampage. My journey was largely fraught with strife and conflict, but it was still an inspiring one, like meeting the brave tiger attack survivors, traveling through some incredibly beautiful forest.
अब वो पेटी था सर, वो भाग पूरा निकाल दिया गया है.
Watching intrepid scientists and forest officers risking their lives to follow the tiger on foot, and getting your own jeep stuck in the middle of the tiger country. Okay, there were a few falls too. But as weeks passed, I wondered if I ever would be able to film a hopeful story. And finally, I found one in the Western Ghats. These forests, mainly in South India, run across 160,000 square kilometers. The thick, moist, deciduous, and rainforest are home to many big and small mammals. Like elsewhere, in Karnataka, the protected forests were scattered and fragmented, as you can see in the patches of grey. A Herculean effort, spanning over 3 years, set up a process which began to change all that. A bunch of determined bureaucrats and a local NGO, Nature Conservation Foundation, brought a proposal to the politicians to sew up the protected areas by bringing in more forests into the legal protection net. The then Forest Secretary, Kaushik Mukherjee, was one of the key officers. I caught up with this wildlife passionate officer and requested him to show us how it all happened.
How are you, sir? How are you? Fantastic. Come. Good. So all this part is now on the PA.
This right for Kaveri, you are seeing the complete map of Kaveri Valley Sanctuary from there.
From this valley, that side was the original Kaveri. And after notification, all this, including this guest house, this area has been added.
So you are connecting this to
The status of some critical reserve forests, sandwiched between the protected forests, was changed to that of wildlife sanctuary. This extended the legal protection for tigers and helped create contiguous wildlife habitats totaling about 11,000 square kilometers. By any means a great effort. The forgotten tigers got a new lease of life.
That was, in fact, it's both newly added and old. It's in between that area. And it's in fact out of our own interest we put up some camera traps. Luckily we bought the tigers with cubs.
Whenever people talk about PAs in the last 30 years, there's been huge controversies of people's rights and how people have been thrown away. In the early 70s, 80s when first Project Tiger came in Kanha. In fact, I had made a film earlier also on how Adivasis were thrown out of the forest and things like that. So this particular part, all of you must be very conscious of.
So wildlifing is a very elite kind of profession. Most of the things you sit here like this with your outfit, have a binocular. So this is what wildlifing is. But then this is not real. This is not something that you do by impinging on livelihoods of people. What we have done is people friendly. So. This is a very good question you asked. So what prevented us from adding everything into green, by the green areas? It's because we have concern for the people. We have done it in a way that we have not affected anybody. So wherever we have found people somewhere, we have left them as it is. So we have connected areas which are people-less.
The Karnataka example sends out a strong message that if the civil society, the bureaucrats, and the politicians set their minds to protect wildlife and forests, it isn't impossible. Madhya Pradesh holds about 20% of India's tigers, and Kanha and Pench tiger reserves are the two main sources of tigers and are brimming to capacities. But how are the corridors doing in Madhya Pradesh?
We know how critical corridors are for large carnivores like tigers. We have seen substantial population of tigers in Rajaji National Park crumble and die due to lack of connectivity in the corridors. But in Madhya Pradesh, the story is something else. The pressure on the corridors is tremendous, and the future of tigers outside the tiger reserves, bleak. I'm standing at the Pench Tiger Reserve gate and waiting for Chittaranjan from WWF, who have a significant presence in this landscape. Hi.
Hi, Krishnendu. This is the Pench Tiger Reserve and this is Kanha Tiger Reserve.
Okay.
Now we are somewhere here.
So I'll travel with you and we can drive through today and see, what are the
what
hurdles
all
and
we can see. Yeah.
what all we can see. And we'll become tigers, going back to Kanha. From Pench. Okay.
The moment I got on the journey with Chittaranjan, the first roadblock we hit was the road itself. From a 2-lane highway, the road fans out into a 4-lane highway. There's a serious proposal for this 4-lane highway to be built all the way back through the Pench Reserve.
So we are entering into the corridor forest now, and the area where we are going is area under this Forest Corporation area.
Barghat
Pariyojana
Mandal
Sevni.
Yeah, and then they will plant it with monocultures of tea.
Monocultures of tea.
Forest Corporation is the commercial arm of the Forest Department. They are converting this bamboo forest into a teak commercial forest.
During this operation, there would be lots of disturbance because trucks and tractors are coming, people are inside, they're cutting trees. And then like when people are cutting trees, some of poachers can also mingle with this people
Laborers
and they can remove lots of wildlife from this area.
Smaller
Small herbivores and all. And who knows, I mean tigers also. We are approaching a village. The name Kopi Jola. And if any cattle loss in this area happens, my team runs to the spot and they put camera trap.
ये बड़े दो पंजे लगे थे बड़ा वाला चिल्ला आवाज कर रहा था अच्छा
घास उखाड़ रहा होगा चिल्ला रहा था वो
अच्छा
हाँ भैया टाइगर भगा चुका है
कैसे
अभी पकड़ लिया ना दौड़ा लेता चिल्लाता है काफी दूर से भगा देता है टाइगर को
This corridor is the mosaic of agriculture fields interspersed with forest pockets. So when tiger passes through the corridor, they will pass through the habitation as well.
The tiger travels from one mosaic to the other. And then this one, so it has to live on cattle kills.
Cattle kills. Yeah. Since there are like 1600,000 cattle in this area, it's a threat for tiger and it's potential for tiger. It depends how you take on. See, this is one of the beautiful forests in the corridor.
Yeah.
There's this forest on this side which you see. is Balaghat Forest, and it has tremendous potential for tiger conservation.
How many tigers are there?
Maybe 4 to 5 tigers right now.
Right.
There are 12 tigers between Kanha and Pench.
Wow.
And then this particular corridor is being cut by this railway line.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So this is the railway line which is here.
Wow. This cuts across completely,
correct. Look at the speed. This is narrow gauge.
Yeah.
If you think about the broad gauge.
This narrow gauge is proposed to be a broad gauge zone, which means more trains, speed, and more development in this area. So goodbye local forests and local tigers. I will show you 2 videos I came across. These may be a bit disturbing, but it's a reality when fast trains roar through forest. We are approaching our destination, Kanha. Broad metal roads giving way to dust tracks, snaking through the villages, catering to thousands of tourists who visit Kanha every year. The resorts are visible now, choking the entry of Kanha Pench corridor.
Finally, we made it to Kanha from Pench. A corridor of 350 kilometers. We drove for 2 days and we saw what the tiger negotiates: villages, agricultural fields, corporation forests, railway lines, roads. The good news is that this corridor is still in use. We have identified about 12 tigers which use this corridor regularly, and probably many more who have not been identified as yet. And this probably is one of the best corridors in the country for tigers. But wait, there is bad news, and lots of it: mining, coal mining.
Over 1 million hectares of standing forest is being affected by coal mining. In a damning expose trashing tigerland, Greenpeace had raised the red flag over the future of tigers in central India. 13 coal fields will impact 8 tiger reserves. I walked into a war room. The final clearance for one of the coal mining leases in Madhya Pradesh was due any day now, and the Greenpeace activists were huddled, planning their last-minute campaign.
What is the status of CFR?
Nandi was the key activist who was handling the coal campaign.
Hi, Nandi. Hi.
How are you? So this is Singrauli coalfield, where Greenpeace is actually fighting a ground fight for this particular block called Mahan coal block.
This is the Mahan.
Mahan coal block is right. And then this red color mark that is given in the map are actually tiger presence.
Right. So how close is the tiger habitat, tiger reserve?
It's about 20 kilometers.
20 kilometers from there. Yeah.
Mahan has got stage 1 clearance. Chatrasal has got stage 1 clearance.
And stage 2 clearances are going to come in the next 48 hours.
Yes.
And so you fear.
For Mahan, yes. So this particular letter was written by the ex-minister Jairam Ramesh himself, explaining to project proponent of Mahan why Mahan should not be cleared. Despite that, these companies lobbied with the PMO, lobbied with the other coal ministry and XYZ people to actually get this particular block. So then Jairam Ramesh, they took Jairam Ramesh off the picture, and then they diluted the FAC to get actually this cleared. There are file notings of then Minister Ms. Natarajan saying that Mahan, she is clearing Mahan because.
This is really interesting. Hang on, yeah, I've got the file notings of the minister. She says, despite reservations against the diversion of densely forested land expressed strongly by the Ministry of Environment, but in view of the considered decision taken by the group of ministers and the fact that the entire civil work and construction work of the plant is already complete and
resulting in huge exposure to the nationalized banks, the forest committee's approval may be granted to the Mahan coal block subject to the usual conditions. Look at the insidious ways the mind of the state works, probably in collusion with the industry when it comes to clear forest lands for mining companies. And they have almost given you the recipe to do it. If you want to mine in the forested areas close to tiger reserves, this is what you do. You sink in 1,000 crores, you build your plant and factories, and then go to the government for approvals. And then they would say that, my God, they have already sunk in so much money. Now if we say no, then the nationalized banks will collapse. We will give out a very wrong signal to the country for economic growth and development. So let's clear it. Do you think these tigers in these areas have any chance of survival? My last stop was Tadoba Andhari Tiger Reserve, TATR, in Maharashtra. In the past few years, this has come up as the #1 tiger hub. It would be interesting to see the relationship of the inside and the outside of Chandrapur district. I hitched a ride with the director.
Roughly TATR core plus buffer is 65.
65 and outside is about
outside
40.
About 35 to 40 must be
tigers.
outside, yeah.
So for 40 tigers, 65 lakhs, and for 60 tigers, 6.5 crores.
Well, yeah, the priority, see, it is the project tiger. Basically, it is NTCA's.
Yeah.
Main focus is on tiger reserves.
Yeah.
But now they are realizing that the threat is more in the area outside. And
so basically NTCA gives money to tiger reserves and not necessarily to tigers. Like it's an area, it's a legal status.
It is not based on the number of tigers. So basically it's the carrying capacity because this area cannot sustain more than 50 tigers.
Yeah.
So they have to move out.
Yeah. But these dispersing tigers going outside, there is very little monitoring of these tigers like you do inside the tiger reserves. So if the tigers are being poached or taken out, is there a system to know them unless you find?
These are wild tigers. We cannot, monitoring means we cannot radio collar them.
Yeah.
So it has to be monitored by people, and the tigers are it's not that easy to monitor them from inch to inch. But definitely the core is more protected.
Yeah.
It was baffling that the moment the tiger crosses the boundary of a tiger reserve, it loses protection and is left to fend for itself. We have seen that in Corbett Ramnagar and now here. 15 to 20 tigers are born here every year, which means 15 to 20 tigers disperse outside every year. And seems that the highest tiger authority, the NTCA, waves them goodbye. It's like building a fancy shopping mall with a tight parking space. The only difference being, here there is no parking space. But the story doesn't stop at tigers.
When tiger densities increase, leopards are pushed out. They are pushed out of the prime areas and they have to then subsist in suboptimal habitats. But the leopards are very, very capable of doing that. They are very versatile. And they then depend on human-generated resources to survive, and that's livestock.
So this becomes a bloody cocktail of conflict. A double whammy of sorts. the leopard presence outside of Tadoba has clearly increased, and so has the human-leopard interface. I got into the conflict zone.
On 10th April 2012, at 7:30 in the morning, right at the spot I am standing, a man was killed by a leopard. About 1.5 hours later, a woman was killed by a leopard, right here, and all within about 200 meters from Adaigaon, which is a village down this road. What we are going to see now is the classical flip side of a successful conservation story of the tigers of Tadoba. When the numbers of tigers increase, there's also a dark side to it. And this story is often untold.
तड़ोवा में बाघ बढ़ रहा है और पर्यटक आते हैं जिप्सी में फोटो लेते हैं। वो तो बोल रहे हैं, पेपर में भी आता है कि तड़ोवा में बाघ बढ़ रहा है तो अच्छा है काफी।
उनके लिए हमारे लिए अच्छा नहीं है ना, हमारे खेती में कुछ नहीं पिकता, जाने के लिए डर लगता है, हमारे लिए अच्छा नहीं है, उनके लिए अच्छा है, हमारे लिए नहीं। देखने के लिए अच्छा लगता है। गाँव लोगों को
कितना वजह से बढ़ गया। नहीं इतने साल हो गया, हमारा पिताजी गुजर गए लेकिन ऐसा घटना कभी नहीं हुआ।
और वैसे शेर भी नहीं दिखे।
100-200 लोगों के सामने इतना अटैक कर दिया उसने।
नहीं पहले नहीं आते थे, पहले जंगल था लेकिन अभी तक शेर नहीं देखा था उस वक्त। हम बच्चे थे, स्कूल में 8वीं कक्षा तक यहाँ से पैदल जाते थे, अकेले भी जाते थे स्कूल में।
2-4 दिन हुए, इतना सब बछड़ा मारा है उस गाय का, फिर हम लोग क्या करेंगे? ना स्कूल है, स्कूल में जाए कैसे जाएंगे? अब तक तो बच्चे पैदल भी जा सकते थे अकेले, अब तो कोई भी नहीं जाता। साइकिल से भी जाने से डर लगता है लोगों को, बाइक से क्या जाएंगे? आदमी भी मारे हमारे गाँव के 2, एक औरत और एक आदमी, वो तो रास्ते पे ही थे। वो औरत तो उसे देखने जा रही थी, हम सब लोग मिल के जा रहे थे, उस औरत को ऐसे पकड़ी, डाली नीचे, मर गई वो बेचारी।
5,000 heads of cattle and about 30 people have been killed by tiger and leopard attacks in the last 3 years in the Chandrapur district. It is clear that alongside ecological carrying capacities, we need to build social carrying capacities. With a meager 10% budget, it would be intriguing to see how the officers manage the outside.
आपका कोई 60 लाख रुपए बाहर का पूरा।
ये तो फ़र्क है कोर एरिया के या नेशनल पार्क के या प्रोटेक्टेड एरिया के टाइगर जो है थोड़ा सा डेयर होते हैं, आदमी देख के वो डरते नहीं, खड़े हो जाते हैं, लेकिन जो नॉन प्रोटेक्टेड एरिया है वो थोड़ा शाय होते हैं। ये उधर के सर, ये धाबा के हैं, ये धाबा के 3 टाइगर है, ये 2 बीबट भी धाबा से ही
ये सब कैप्चर किए हैं।
ये हाँ मैन एनिमल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट में ये कैप्चर
क्या मारा है?
ये इन्होंने मारा है,
आदमी को मारा है?
हाँ आदमी को 4 उस टाइम, मतलब कम से कम 1 महीना उन्होंने गांव में धुमाकूड़ टाइप का किए थे।
लोगों का तो बहुत फिर वो हो रहा होगा।
हाँ फ्यूरियस तो था ही, तो इसलिए
तो ये सारा गाड़ी उलट दिया। कितने
हाँ,
गाड़ियाँ थी?
वो कम से कम 6-7 गाड़ियाँ थी।
चलिए देखते हैं फील्ड में। हाँ आइए, दिखाइए कैसे करते हैं आपके फील्ड स्टाफ।
The officers who manage the outside are usually from the territorial cadre, and managing wildlife is not their priority job, nor are they trained for it. But here in Chandrapur, they are managing 40 tigers. It was indeed an ironical situation. One hand was efficiently fulfilling its mandate by operating the tiger factory, unmindful that it was spewing out new tigers into the conflict zone. The other hand was desperately trying to quell the conflict by monitoring these tigers. And between the 2 hands, there was almost no connectivity.
Match the tigers in the trail है। हाँ ट्रेल है। हाँ धर्मा, वो धर्मा मेरे वो कोलीग है, वो हम लोग हाँ ये लाइट पे मिलते हैं। So
And we tried our 2-bit by strapping our infrared camera, hoping to catch a few tigers on the trail.
Start recording.
My best chance to physically encounter the outside tigers came when I met 2 rare young people. Kamlesh sold building hardware and Nikhil sold textbooks. And in the night, they were hunters with cameras.
लेपर्ड टाइगर्स और बाकी भी जो नॉक्टर्नल है यहाँ पे काफ़ी बार देखा है.
They would go scanning the back roads of Chandrapur city in the dead of night. And they came back with some amazing photos of the creatures of the dark. This was indeed by chance. And finally I saw it in front of me. Goosebumps. Traveling through the unprotected forest, some of these tigers' fate would be trapped in death. But no one would even ask that how did these tigers land up so far away from their forests?
So what's the one lesson you have learned from your experience of outside the PAs?
No, it's an amazing biology of tigers itself, that if you give them a chance, they will increase very quickly. And all it needs is a site which has the right condition in terms of the habitat and prey, and given the right protection levels and given the political will to conserve such areas. Pilibhit is an example, Ramnagar is an example. The tiger numbers bounce back very quickly. So that gives us a lot of hope.
At the end of my journey, I had more questions and complexities than from where I had started.
This is the vision of tiger conservation today, blurred. What were you thinking when you were drawing up plans to increase the tiger numbers inside the PAs? The question is, do we need more tigers before we can manage the ones we have? Think nuanced and think new ways of conservation. Think, can you include the patience and the tolerance of people who live with the tigers in your new conservation strategies? Think, can you tackle the team bureaucrat and the politician and their project of selling the forest to the mining companies? If you can't do that, then the success of multiplying the tiger numbers is useless. I'm going to leave you with some heart-wrenching images, which is fast becoming a reality of tomorrow. Good night and good luck to the forgotten tigers.
बघितलं